Let's pause for a sec. There's about 30 seconds in Game 4 of the first round of the NBA playoffs in an overtime matchup between the Lakers and the Grizzlies. The Lakers are up 3 and LeBron James has the ball near half court. Who's that guy guarding him? It's a guy by the name of Dillon Brooks who might have just talked a bunch of trash about LeBron the past couple of days. So let me just resume the clip and you guys can watch LeBron cook this guy and get a game-winning and one. Over the past 20 seasons, we've seen plenty of players try to get under LeBron's skin. You have Deshaun and Lance Stevenson, Joakim Noah, Draymond Green, and now Dillon Brooks is the next guy added to that infamous list. Dillon Brooks is a member of the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Memphis Grizzlies talk a lot of trash. And I mean a lot. Ja Morant, their star point guard, said in an exclusive interview with ESPN that he's quote-unquote fine in the West. And the past 2 seasons, after being a high number 2 seed, the Grizzlies have been knocked out in the second round by the Warriors, and this year in the first round by the Lakers. And while they are a young team who definitely can go far in the future with great players like Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., just to name a few, I think they really talk trash when they really haven't necessarily proven anything. And while they are a great team, they just aren't on that level with the Lakers and LeBron and the Warriors and Steph Curry. And look, I'm not bashing confidence. There's a big difference between confidence and cockiness, and how the Grizzlies portray themselves and how they show themselves to the media, the fans, and just how they've behaved themselves as a team, as a unit. I think they've definitely leaned more towards that cockiness end, and I think that has gotten into the way of some of their success. And with all the unfortunate issues with Ja Morant we've seen recently, Dillon Brooks stepping into the spotlight and now taking over a media role where he goes and says these outlandish statements is not a good look for the Grizzlies either. Being one of the better wing defenders on the team, Dillon Brooks naturally got the assignment of LeBron James. In the middle of the series, Brooks dropped this infamous quote, "I don't care, he's old. I poke bears, I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40 points. I pride myself on what I do on defense and taking any challenge on the board." And look, yeah, LeBron may be 38, but he's still one of the best NBA players right now, and that's something that's incredible we've never seen. And I know Dillon Brooks was just trying to get under LeBron's skin and just pressure him a little bit, but LeBron, he's a different breed. Like, he does not care what Dillon Brooks has to say, especially because Dillon Brooks, he's not going to go out there and do anything special on the offensive end. Yeah, sure, he might be a defensive key or a defensive X factor to help your team winning the game, but this is not your superstar talking. This is maybe your 4th, 5th best player, and honestly, guys, like, Xavier Tillman had a better series, and Xavier Tillman didn't say anything, and some of their better players like Brandon Clark and Steven Adams were even injured. So a guy like Dillon Brooks is not even one of the better players on the team, but he starts because of his defensive abilities, goes out and talks all this trash to one of the best basketball players we've ever seen in our lifetime. And LeBron ultimately ended up proving him wrong. LeBron had a 20-20 game on Dillon Brooks. He had that Game 4 overtime and one winning layup that we saw at the start of the video. And the Lakers took the series in 6. And Dillon Brooks, he said, "I don't respect anyone until they drop 40. Well, the last game, the Lakers beat the Grizzlies 125-85. You guessed it, exactly by 40 points. One more stat for you guys. Dillon Brooks, out of all qualified playoff players, he shot the worst field goal percentage, which is just funny because he was the worst offensive player technically, and he was talking all this trash. And LeBron wasn't even his dominant self we'd known from the past. Obviously, you could see his motor was slower than usual. He wasn't able to go and attack the rim as physical as before, but he did a great job in working alongside his other pieces they acquired from the trade deadline. D'Angelo Russell had a really good closing out game. Rui Hachimura had a couple good games off the bench. Anthony Davis, some games looked lost and other games looked amazing. And so LeBron was able to defer to these guys and have the Lakers win as a team. And it's okay if he doesn't look entirely dominant, because throughout the series he averaged 22, 11, and 5, which is amazing stats for someone. But for a guy like LeBron, who are used to dropping 27, 7, and 7, they were a little bit subpar, but LeBron still played his role and played great. And Dillon Brooks, I do want to respect him, and I know in the thumbnail I did put a funny picture of Dillon Brooks in a Shanghai Sharks uniform. And while there were a lot of jokes on Twitter and throughout the internet about Dillon Brooks potentially going to China, because that's a common joke amongst NBA fans, he most likely will find a job on another NBA team. However, teams are going to be wary and teams are going to look a little bit away from Dillon Brooks because of all this negative attention in media he just brought to the Grizzlies for no reason. I mean, it's not like their superstar Ja Morant was talking, but Dillon Brooks, a guy who really hadn't fully proven himself as a game changer in the series, goes out and talks a lot of this trash to one of the best basketball players of all time. I mean, obviously it's a team that's going to negatively affect you and what your team looks like. So I don't think teams are not going to necessarily want him for that reason. And I think he definitely shot himself in the foot and the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies just announced today that they don't want any part of Dillon Brooks next season. So he's an unrestricted free agent, and he's going to be going to whatever team wants him, if any team wants him. He's a good defender, but I think if he had played a role where he just didn't open his mouth and went out there and did his best to lock up LeBron, things would be looking much better for both the Grizzlies and Dillon Brooks. And Draymond Green actually dropped a funny quote. The dynasty doesn't begin with you, it begins after you. And I know what Dillon Brooks and Draymond Green had their own fair share of beef or issues on and off the court. It's a pretty funny quote because of how accurate it actually turned out to be now, because Dillon Brooks is completely out of this Grizzlies future, because now they've announced that they don't want any part of him in the upcoming season. And he was an impact player, however, he just took it too far when it came to talking, and LeBron absolutely took that personally and just went out and just cooked Dillon Brooks. Even though LeBron wasn't even playing at his best self, he learned to facilitate, he learned to defer to teammates, and he learned to play winning basketball, and he showed Dillon Brooks that's how you win basketball games. And the Lakers take the Grizzlies down in 6 in a 40-point win in game 6, and the Grizzlies go home and hope next year, even after being a good seed, they can finally make a playoff run that they've been hoping for. And Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson, all guys who, if they're healthy next year, I think the team can be good alongside some of their bigs they're missing out, like Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. But yeah, overall, this Dillon Brooks situation was just a bunch of negative publicity for both the team and the player, and now he's put himself in a worse position where teams might not necessarily even want him in free agency. So we'll see where he goes, and if he actually does end up going someplace like China, that would be pretty funny, and a funny story too. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let me know what type of content you want soon. Bye, and thank you.